I need to put this on mute.
Wait, why did I get it?
Refresh.
Are we on?
Should be on.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm
Okay.
sure everyone can hear.
Oh,
Let's see.
Yeah.
It's refreshing.
the
Oh,
mic.
yes, it is. It is.
All right.
Keisha.
Looks like we're on.
We are.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
We're just a smidge late, a little minor delay, but we're here.
Yes, we
Happy
are. Happy New Year 2020.
Oh,
which
wow. Happy New
is something
Year.
else because it is the 30th of January.
It is.
I mean, whoa.
It's
How
moving
you
way
feeling
too
about
fast.
that? Yeah.
I'm not feeling good about it. I
No,
must say.
no. Well, we're all
why
in.
are we feeling good? I want to hear
What's-
about it.
Well, because I mean, it just means we're inching that much closer to
Graduation.
everything that
College.
has happening this year. We all have children
That's
graduating
exciting.
from high school.
And that is
this year.
exciting. me.
Yeah.
But
But
it's
it's-
exciting you.
That's exciting. Like, I'm excited.
Well, it's our first and your second, so
Yes.
perhaps that's the difference.
I will
Yes.
say when it hit 2020, that was the first thought that went through my mind
Yeah.
because I've always had in my head
Yeah.
class of 2020 for my son.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
okay,
they're
okay.
going.
Once they decide.
Yeah, in May.
Yeah.
Once we send a
It's nobody's
deposit.
business, so it's
No, we don't care about that. We just care about where they're going.
Okay, I was just making sure.
Absolutely. Agree. Deal? Deal. Excellent
Yeah.
idea. Yeah, we'll do that in May.
I love
Yeah.
that. Yay.
Yeah. I like
creative, very creative.
Very creative.
Well, I'm
I like
excited about it being January 30th.
Oh,
Because it's
really?
almost February 2nd.
Oh, well, yes. Yes.
I've been looking at February 2nd so I can celebrate Larry's birthday. So that's why I'm excited. Because I can eat what I would like.
Right. Larry had a birthday. Our, executive producer, Larry.
Executive
And,
producer.
he turned the big 5-0.
Woohoo!
That's a lot.
Half a
We have
century.
AARP cookies.
Woo.
Say 50 on them.
No.
AARP. I showed
They
them.
send you a gift?
He got a gift from his sister. It was so
Oh.
sweet of her.
Oh, I
They
don't.
don't send you that.
I love that.
I heard they send you
No,
like a
they-
membership.
No, they
card
send
or
you,
something.
I didn't
yeah,
sign
they
up
do.
yet. I got to sign up. It's $60 a year.
It's
And
really
you go-
good.
You get a travel thing in the
And you get
for
some
the trunk.
discounts. And you get some discounts.
Discount.
Yes. It's a
Yeah.
really good
Well,
Okay.
they say membership has its privileges.
Yes. Go for it, Larry.
And
And
the-
we'll be on the bandwagon.
Oh wait, we have Carter on.
Hi,
Carter.
Carter. I hope
Carter.
you're feeling better, darling.
Hey, oh that's
Oh, happy
excellent.
birthday, Larry.
Oh.
Thank
Oh,
you.
no, you're not early, honey.
No,
It
we're
was January 20th, but we're just celebrating on February 2nd. So you're right on time,
right on
Carter.
time. All greetings. We'll take all greetings.
Yes.
No wait, is there celebration? What's the celebration?
Yeah, what are you going
February
to do?
2nd? What's happening?
They're going to eat food.
Oh,
Yeah,
Right,
we're on the
right,
Daniel
right,
fast.
right.
So that,
yes.
we get to
Tell
eat.
the viewers what
The
you're
Daniel
doing.
fast.
The Daniel fast is like a vegan diet. You're like on a vegan diet. You're eating what Daniel ate. So Daniel didn't eat meat or wine or any of those type of things. So now we will be able to on February, and it's 21 days of this.
So you almost had like a dry January.
we had a
they've
very
been,
trying,
you know,
but
like-
our sleep has improved tremendously. Like
Wow.
I recommend that for anybody
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
for your sleep. Yeah.
Well, first
Eat
of all,
fruits
so
and vegetables.
I must say I can back up this claim that the sleep has improved because Danielle has. What do you have? You have an app that
Yes.
checks
She
the
does.
quality.
And she has
of sleep. So I'm not in the bedroom, but I can
right. You
tell
can
that
tell
you're
the sleep
sleeping
quality.
well.
Yeah. Yeah. She sent us a few screenshots of her sleep,
Larry
and
has
it's pretty
the
impressive.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. It's
It went
impressive.
from like 500 to now like 697 something.
Oh wow.
My heart dip dropped a little bit more. I sleep like a brick.
Wow.
I
That's
go
really
to sleep,
good.
shut the eyes, and don't wake up until 4.
Now you're not worried
Wow.
that you're going to sleep so soundly that like something doesn't wake you up that should be
Yeah.
waking you up.
No, I'm not concerned.
Okay.
I have headphones on. My goal is to not wake up.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
Today, someone came in like they were the police, and the flash. I didn't wake up until the flashlight was in my eyes.
Wow.
You mean
And,
that?
and, your
Neither one
sleep,
of us.
and your sleep has improved too, Larry, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Wow.
Well,
Wow. I
so
love,
there's
I,
something to
love
it.
the, I love the off-camera voice.
I know, it's
that
great.
They're experiencing. They hear it,
Yeah.
but they don't see it.
Right.
And, it's like it's a pretty sophisticated production
Well, wait, listen.
technique that we're using here.
We're sophisticated.
We are.
Even if we just say we are.
in the 2020s, we gotta claim it. Girl.
Yes,
that's
yes,
right.
Yes, we feel really excited about the year ahead.
Absolutely.
And we have so many good books. We actually made a list. We made a list for the year.
I'm sorry.
I don't know.
We made a list for the year for our
That's not
books.
what I was laughing.
Oh, I was like,
So I know that this is a live show.
oh, yes.
And I know that sometimes people come back and they watch later after it's live.
Definitely.
But it's also nice to know people are live watching at the time. And I was laughing because it was one viewer. And that one viewer is someone that we know very well.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. So
He's our love.
Yes.
He's our love. It's fine. He knows.
We're having a good time no matter
Yeah.
what. It could be 0 viewers.
It doesn't matter. Right.
Here for you.
But we love our late viewers
Yeah.
that tune in later.
Yeah. And really, we know that people are watching because we see the views,
That's right.
and it's awesome. And really, we did this for us.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Think about it. We're going to have this archive.
Yes. For the nursing
Right?
home.
I mean,
Yeah.
We can play it on
Yeah.
Nursing
On nursing
home.
home.
on Thirsty Thursdays.
Thursday,
When we
Thursdays,
get the beverages in the home.
or
we
Whiskey
get
Wednesdays.
Whiskey Wednesdays. Right. There you go. And we will play our YouTube videos.
Yep.
that's
We
a
said,
good
what did you
idea.
do when you were in your 40s? Huh, we have a story to share.
Wow, you're right. You're
Right. We're going to be very popular. Very.
That's funny.
The
Yes,
pictures from your masquerade awards.
Absolutely.
ceremony. We'll have pictures to share.
Yes.
Trips to take. We're going to have
Yes.
lots to talk about.
Tales for days.
And they won't be tall tales because we have evidence.
That's true.
Because some people talk.
Yeah,
some people
can't back
just
it up.
They can't back it up. They have
Yeah.
nothing to verify it.
Mhm.
So
We are
that's just us.
verifiable.
I'm excited about it.
Yes.
And so weekend plans, the big game is this weekend.
Yes,
I
it
might
is.
miss it.
Yeah.
I
Who
might
are we
miss
rooting
it.
for? Who are we rooting
Who's
for?
playing? Who's playing? I have
Kansas
no idea.
City. I'm excited
Kansas
about them,
City.
and that's who I'm rooting for.
Mahomes
other
and Andy
team?
Reid.
And Andy
Gotta
Reid.
go for them.
San
Home
San
team.
Francisco 49ers.
49ers.
Yes.
The Niners.
49ers.
Yes.
But I love Red and Kansas City. I love Mahomes. I'm happy he got it to be this far.
yeah, and Andy Reid deserves to finally get a championship. You know,
Yes.
he was being Philly, so
Yeah. How did he do there?
I mean,
Well,
he could
okay, well,
should have won,
there's
could have
that.
won.
Well, there's
didn't
that.
win.
There's
Yeah.
that. There's that.
But
So I don't think I'm
But
voting
now he
for
has
him.
a shot.
But
I
now
don't
he
think
has a
I'm
shot.
rooting for him based on the information you just shared.
Right.
So what's the other team?
San
You said
Francisco
you're
49ers.
not rooting him?
I'm not.
Right, for the 49ers.
No.
San Francisco.
If he didn't bring it home for the Eagles,
What coast do you live on? Is just all I have to
then
say.
I'm
You're
done.
over here, Danielle. Since it's all the way over there. So
Kansas City's in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but over here,
Oh, you're saying
over
they're closer
like we're
to us.
closer to us.
That's a good
But we
argument.
have
That's a more compelling
But
argument.
we have trains,
Yes.
planes, and automobiles. So
This is true.
what does that mean? And the internet.
And the internet.
Okay, wait. The quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs is black.
Yes, he is.
How about that?
Is it T.O.?
Hey, and what
No.
about the Kaepernick factor?
Oh,
Oh, Colin Kaepernick. Wait, what?
yes,
happened
because the 49ers did dirty.
there? Oh, that's who they did. That changes it. Oh, that changes it. Oh, yeah.
Not to be
Yeah.
political, but
Because I don't know a thing about a thing. So you have to sometimes connect the dots for me.
now dots are connected.
Dots are connected. So I'm not based on Andy Reid, but based on
all the other
all the other
okay,
evidence.
yes.
Done. I'm not rooting for them. Yes.
Mahomes
Excellent.
Mahomes is young. It's really exciting time.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
football.
excited. Go.
Yeah, Mahomes.
Chiefs.
Go
Go
Kansas
Chiefs.
City Chiefs. Yes, they were red, so we're
And
red
it's
at the
hard to look at
beginning.
her lips with a smile.
So
You take
we'll
her
watch
with you?
them. We'll watch
Yeah.
the game.
Yeah.
We'll watch that.
Yes.
Busy February.
Yes.
I don't know what we'll wear for our broadcast in February. We'll have to figure that out.
We will.
Yeah,
we
you know,
will.
it's just a short.
Oh no,
month,
it's
February.
Valentine's. We have to do
Yeah,
Valentine's.
maybe we'll. Yeah.
Are we meeting on Valentine's?
No, we're meeting the.
Oh.
No, but we'll
Oh, soon after.
celebrate.
Yeah, we'll celebrate all month. The month of
Okay.
love.
All right.
We
Sure,
can
sure,
do that.
sure.
We can do that.
Does our book have something to do with
you know?
love?
I
It's
don't.
the silent
The
patient.
silent
right?
patient.
I know, but
So-
I don't know what it's about. So
Me neither.
No, I haven't read it yet. Haven't read it yet. It'll be intriguing, but we
But
can
doesn't
connect.
every book involve
Yeah,
love
we can connect
or
everything
lack
to
of love
You're right.
or the
Yes.
results of no love?
You're
Yes.
right.
Evidence
You're
of
Evidence
yeah.
of not
Not
love.
happy.
So our next book is about love.
Yes. All the books are about love. I don't know if that's. We'll just make the case.
Yes. Yes.
So do you want to get into this book? I
Sure.
mean, I
Let's
know.
do it.
I know this book was pretty heavy content, the Nickel Boys, and on a lot of reading lists for 2019.
Mhm.
And I think it, covers a lot of different, topics. So we're actually going to start with, I think the first question, which I always ask,
Yep.
did you like the book? And I will start with Danielle.
I did like the book. At first I thought I didn't like the book. And then when I started telling you guys about it earlier, I said, I like this book. It's pretty good. I didn't like the content. It made me sad.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, well, I can't wait to finish, but I'm glad I expanded my repertoire and read it. So overall, I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
How about you, Daria?
I like the book. I think even though it was tough to read, I also like the fact that it was grounding me deeper in like a realistic look at what the history, what that time was like, and what people experienced at that point in history, and a way to engage with people who right now are reading this on a deeper level, because like you can read a book summary, but then you can read a book.
Right.
So I like the fact that I have that now shared experience with people who are talking about a lot of people talking about this book. So
Yes.
Conversation.
exactly. So it's
Yes.
like when you watch Power and other people watch Power, you talk about it. So
Right.
same thing with books,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So I
It
like
was
that.
on Obama's list.
It was on Obama's
It
list.
was.
Yes.
I mean, and in the New York Times, I mean, I think they definitely have some books that are about riveting, intriguing, insightful, content and things that people can talk about no matter where you are, what kind of profession you have or job you have, you can kind of connect to some of those books on the list. So I liked the book. It was not, my favorite, by any stretch, but I think what I liked was the historical connections and the fact of seeking the truth and finding some peace for families, I'm sure, connected to those young men, with finding the truth and finding final resting place. So
what's interesting,
that to
as
me
you're
was important.
As you're saying this, it's making me think about when I was reading it, I thought it was actually a actual true account.
Right.
But then when I got to the end and I saw that it was it was based on real accounts, but how closely it aligned with those real accounts. I'm like, he really walked that line between reality and fiction in a way where like you really feel like you understand what happened.
Yeah.
In the real context. Yeah.
And I actually like historical fiction a whole lot, because I think it's a way to kind of tell a story and then have those connections that are a little bit more, I don't want to say modern, but relevant to the time. And I think he did a very good job of that. And I if I recall, I think this is probably one of his first novels.
Oh wow.
I think he may have had one other solid one before this, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah. So I think that to be a newer writer,
that's good.
You're hitting a home run.
Take on the deep content.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Lin-Manuel Miranda. Like he comes out like, he had been working at it, but it seemed like overnight success. Hamilton, boom.
Right. Hamilton was everything.
Right. And who just saw Hamilton?
Oh, he did.
Finally got there.
Yes.
It's a whole nother show.
Yes. Okay, so back to the book. What's our
Yeah.
next question?
So what would you like to start with?
I will start with, what will I start with? I don't know. I'll just start with number 1. In the prologue, the narrator observes that after the truth about Nickel County comes out, even the most innocent scene, a mess hall or the football field, came out sinister. No photographic trickery necessary. Can you think of a time in your life when discovering the history of a place, a particular building, a statue, a historical landmark, etc., dramatically changed your perception of it? So,
yes.
You could go first.
Yes. So for me, this question triggers me to think about Monticello and how up until only a few years ago, they weren't acknowledging the history of Jefferson owning slaves that lived on that property and ran the whole thing. And so, when I was a student at UVA, I wouldn't go. But years later, after they were willing to acknowledge the history, I felt like I could handle it better than to go to a place where they're not even willing to
acknowledge their
not even willing to put it out there, not even willing to say this is part of our overall history. So that's what that question conjures for me.
What about you?
So I think for me, I went to upstate New York a few times, and the whole idea, when you think about Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad, there's a place called Watertown, New York, where they have the Thousand Islands, which are these little islands. They're in the middle of between like the water between New York and Canada, and the whole idea that this place they finally kind of made the I guess plaques and acknowledgement of how many African American people, these folks who really were able to leave the South and make their way all the way up north, and to make a home and a place for themselves. I feel like I was so happy to be in that space, but it was so. You just think about the drive, from New Jersey all the way to that place. And just to think of the amazing, incredible, warriors they were to make it that far.
Mm-hmm,
So, yeah, that's what I thought about. I mean, there are a lot of places. There are some places in Florida that I've been that were, former, plantations, and you just start thinking about just how people, endured, and so yeah, that's what I thought about the two stark, different places.
While you were talking, I was thinking about like what really made me feel that way. Like I know before I was telling you guys Penhurst, mental asylum, but really like when you're driving down and you see that like by trees there would be like flowers and memorials, and there's an accident there. Like I don't know, it reminds me of that. Like every time I see that, it just reminds me like, oh my gosh, someone lost their family. Like. Yeah, just that right there,
right.
And just like
so funny you brought that up. I was on 295 the other morning, and there's on right between exit 7 and exit 4 on 295 going towards Delaware. There's a cross, and it blinks like
it blinks.
Yeah, it's like battery operated. So someone someone put it there for their loved one. Yeah, and it's like it's when you're driving in the middle of the night or morning. Like I do often, you just see it, and it's a beautiful remembrance. That it just made me think of that.
But you know what? It's interesting now. Like as we're talking about it, it kind of ties a little bit to Hamilton. This idea of like who's going to remember you, and who's going to remember your history,
and what's your story?
Yeah,
who's going to share it?
Who's going to share it? Yeah. And is it going to be shared accurately? Right, because history can be manipulated in the way it is retained and transferred. Like I saw recently that the National Archives, did I tell you about this? How the National Archives,
tell everybody,
the National Archives altered a photo of the Women's March in DC to obscure the text on different signs that people were holding up. And it was only the signs that were critical of Trump. So just think about that. The National Archive is
and having admitted it.
Yes.
Good kudos.
And so somebody caught it. And compared the original photo with the one that was in the National Archive, and was like, wait a second, these are different. Look at this is fuzzy and it's clear here. And come to find out, they actually had manipulated the photo, which essentially is manipulating history.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so and how many times has that happened? And now we get to say what it is.
Yeah.
And how powerful is that? Because there were, I'm sure, many people left out. Of the story, who were at the table, who was in the room, many different rooms, all the different decisions. So that to me, there's some progress there, but wow, that was a big one and very recent.
Yes, very recent,
very timely. So you get to pick.
Okay. That was a good question.
That was a great question.
Well, thank you.
I think I liked our second round discussion. Not to say I didn't like the first round.
Right, but
All right, so okay, here's one. One student, Jaime, I think I picked the same question is half Mexican and constantly shuffled between the white and colored sections of Nickel Academy. Why do you think the author included a character with Jaime's ethnic, or maybe it's Jamie, I think it's Jaime, but
I think it's Jaime.
Jaime, okay. Ethnic identity in this story. Why did they include him?
Yeah.
What do you think? Should I answer it first, or should you guys answer?
Oh.
And then come back to me.
You know, you can go.
You
first.
seem like you're ready with the
Yes.
answer.
Oh no, I'm really not.
Because I'm not.
No.
So go ahead.
Yeah,
Or
go for it.
Keisha.
I can go.
Yeah, you go.
So I feel like yeah, I think that.
Hey,
you know,
Lisa.
Oh, hi, Lisa.
Oh, she's driving. Listen, that is
Oh,
commitment.
we
Thank
love
you,
that. Safe travel.
Lisa. Be
Yeah,
careful.
be careful. I don't know why you're typing if you're driving.
Right, I hope you're talking to
She
text.
probably was at a red light, and
Right.
then she gave her a moment, and she
Yeah,
typed it,
okay.
and then
Maybe she pulled over because we're so fabulous.
yeah.
Thanks, Elisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
But I think they, you know, you had having a character who having a biracial identity, they really did not know what to do, and I think that is something telling of our history in America, where we don't know what to do when people don't necessarily fit into one box. And the whole idea that when he, you know, turned pale, he could be over at the white
I know,
section.
that's
As
so
soon as because this was in Florida, right? So then he got a tan, he was outside too long, they put him in the colored section, which is what they call it in the book.
Yeah.
We know the proper terms.
Yeah.
But I think for us, you know, the lesson is that do we always have to check a box and keep people in one place? And can people? He learned a lot more than the lesson they were probably even trying to teach him, because they were trying to make it easy for them, the adults. But he learned how to be adaptable and navigate totally two different environments.
Mhm.
And so, you know, he had a benefit there. And I know it probably wasn't the best and most ideal situation because he was the only one, but he really probably gained a lot of confidence, and he was able to be comfortable to the extent that any of the students could have comfort.
Yeah.
But being able to navigate both sides. And I think there is an advantage to that. And I think in society, you know, when you're able to go from, you know, the White House to the brewery, like me, maybe, I think that is a really important aspect of one's personality.
Yeah, I agree. You know, when I came across this character in the book, I kept thinking to myself, like, how would I feel in this situation? For some reason, I felt myself trying to imagine myself in his shoes more than other characters in the book.
Yeah.
Why? Because he wasn't being persecuted. And what does that tell you? I mean, it relates to what you're saying. People that can navigate and be fluid and adaptable are less likely to experience the challenges of being stuck in one box. Right? So that's where things like code switching comes up, and we try to teach, you know, our
Now there are
kids
lessons on
the
that.
ability to flex like that,
Right.
you know, to go to the barbershop and then go to, as you said, the White House or wherever they need to be, the boardroom.
Right.
So I think that character, even though he didn't have much dialogue, he was very strategically placed in this story to cause us to think about this societal norm.
Yeah. And how society again makes you feel like you have to choose.
Yeah.
And why do we have to? Right?
Mhm.
Because society can't handle who I am or what I represent. And
Right.
what I represent is, you know, this whole idea of two different racial groups, you know, blending.
Yeah.
I thought about none of those things.
Gotta love it.
Yes.
What do you think about?
I thought about, like, they made up a rule that was stupid, and instead of admitting that the rule was dumb and made no sense, they had to keep it going. So they switched the boy back and forth instead of just saying, okay, like, if he's too dark, oh well, like, he can stay on this side, or if he's too white. And it reminds, like, Kaya, well, I don't know if you saw this article. There was a swimmer, she was black, and she was given, like, the swim team, the school issued swimsuit, but because the judge said she had too much hanging out, like she was a thicker student, they disqualified her. And I know, and I was so upset. I sent to Kai. Kai's like, well, Mom, the rules changed. Now, like, we can't have cleavage, we can't have too like wedgie. Like, they made all these rules for women, for the girls, because men or people look at them and overly sexualize them when they view them swimmers. And I'm like, I swim all the time. No one ever told me about my swimsuit or how it should be. But again, it's like a dumb rule that makes no sense. So now you're telling me men are going to be looking at these girls' butts to say, oh, you have a wedgie? Like,
well, your example reminds me of the story that I just heard about the boy with dreadlocks.
Oh, not being able to graduate.
And Ellen gave him a $20,000
$20,000
scholarship.
scholarship. Yeah.
He wasn't able to graduate.
They said he couldn't participate in graduation.
That's such a shame.
And
If he
well,
did
I
not.
was so what struck me about this is very similar to what you're saying, like some arbitrary rule. And
Mhm.
you're right. Yeah, I saw how Ellen did the scholarship. Alicia Keys came out and all that. And I
We had
guess
that incident in New Jersey last year.
oh yeah.
In Salem
Well, they
County.
cut his dreads. They
And-
cut his dreads. Now this
Right.
kid is saying, "I'm taking a stance.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you have me, sacrifice a part of my culture." His father is what is it? From the Caribbean, and this is part of their culture. And he's
Right.
saying, "No, like this is what I believe, and I should be able to." And Ellen is like, "Well, wait a second. How long is the girl's hair? If the girls can have long hair,
Exactly.
why
Joe
can't the boys
Allen,
have long
exactly.
hair?"
Right.
So it's like it's all these, like you said, arbitrary rules.
for no reason.
Yes.
And then to enforce it, like the nation is saying that's stupid to make
Yeah.
the kid cut his hair.
right.
But are they going to back down and say,
Yeah,
we made
we
a
were
mistake,
wrong.
we
Yeah.
were wrong? Like it's harder to enforce something that makes no sense,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
And even with the swimmer being issued a suit, what body type are you
that's what I'm saying.
providing, the
Yes.
suits for? Are you talking about all girls or all girls that look one kind of way?
Right.
Are you saying that swimmers only look one kind of way? And it's like, now I go to Serena. Serena started making her own clothing and her own athletic wear because she needed things that worked for
Yes.
her body.
Right.
Because she wasn't your typical standard tennis player,
Right. Right.
I mean, so now with swimming, you have to be
Who's
whatever.
going to be the wedgie police?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Isn't
Wow. It's unfortunate, but
Absolutely.
you're right. Now the rule is here. So do we stick with it? Or do we say,
We made a mistake. That
we
was stupid.
need
don't
to
have this
reconsider?
rule. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's true. That's absolutely true. I agree.
That
But
was
I think
deep.
that's good and that's to me the power of the book
Oh my gosh.
is thinking about how you make connections to your own life.
Yeah.
And it's not just the subject itself. It's all these different ways that we add and layer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so one other quick thought on this question. So I have heard people that are in the majority, of European descent say that they have to share their power. They have to share their power. And instead of like wielding their power, they have to learn how to share their power. And every time I hear that, there's something about it that grates me the wrong way. Because I'm like, well, who? It just feels like, oh, you have the power to share with me.
Right.
Oh, how fortunate am I that you're sharing some of your power? And then I think to myself, well, have you ever thought that I might have power to share with you?
Right.
Like people make
No.
assumptions about
Right.
who you are based on so many things. And like
So
Jaime, they're assuming like, all right, now because he's darker, he's gonna fit in better here.
He'll
Now
feel more
because he's
comfortable,
lighter,
right.
he's gonna fit in better
Right.
here. But guess what? There's so many other things that you can't see
Yeah.
that might give somebody power, that might give somebody
Mhm.
an ability to affiliate, that might give somebody the ability to influence. So it's just, yeah.
It's definitely
It's
deep.
Yeah.
Definitely deep. And you went into definitely, I think, what we are challenged with in our society,
Mhm.
especially when we do have a voice and we can share the whole idea around a power exchange
Right,
and a real conversation about that. And people aren't necessarily ready for that
right.
whole idea.
Yeah, I mean, the same person that has power in one context, like in a boardroom, if you go somewhere else and put that
Right.
person, they're not going to have the same power. anymore.
Exactly. Right.
So the context matters.
Right. Right.
The time, the place, right?
Oh, yeah.
Purpose, all that. But
Absolutely.
sometimes we only see it through one lens.
That's right.
And then you say, oh, well, I've got this, and it transcends.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, in America, I think one thing that transcends is the economic, power.
Yeah.
And so beyond just, a racial identity, I think economics plays a very large role.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
In some of those,
It does.
some of those influential areas.
Yeah.
So, which is tough because we kind of already know about the
Mm-hmm. The history.
the history,
Yeah.
yes, and the impact of that. So, we can have a question.
Oh, I thought it's your turn.
Yes, it might be.
Yes, it's your turn.
All right.
This might be our last question.
I don't know. Okay, so one of Elwood's takeaways from Dr. King's speeches is the importance of maintaining one's dignity in the face of oppression.
Mhm.
Mm.
Is Elwood's decision to escape and risk the consequences of capture rooted in the realization that he can no longer maintain his dignity in a place like Nickel?
Mm.
Can you guys remind me what happened before he escaped?
The
So-
boxing match.
And
It
then
wasn't, and the
then-
one kid died.
they killed him basically.
Yeah,
Because he didn't win.
because he wouldn't throw the match.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And then after that, that probably just broke something
Broke him.
inside of Elwood. I think
It was
that
all
just-
rigged.
Well, remember
and
the
they had
letter,
said
and then he got in trouble. Was that later?
that was
Before that?
before the match. I think the
Yeah.
letter was before the boxing match, and then I do think he was probably broken. And what he realized at that point was that he went in with like a very optimistic view of how all of this should go. I'm just going to do my time. I realized that I was in the wrong place, the wrong time. I'm doing my time. He also had that, external factor of love with his, grandmother. I think for him, he thought doing this was the right thing in terms of trying to go and right what he felt at that point was really a wrong.
Yeah.
And the wrong was that, here it is, the stronger, athlete was supposed to just give up. And so I think he felt he had to give up. If
There's
you
nothing
recall,
left. It's like
also,
there's nothing left
they
to
put
lose.
him in, because of the letter, they beat him and put him
Right.
in solitary confinement.
Right, right.
And so then he really only had his thoughts, and Dr. King, I'm sure, in his mind and all the speeches that he had listened to, prior to going to this place. And so I think he realized I've got to get out of here and I've got to make a decision or I've got to die trying. And I think about all of, again, anybody who's been in bondage, that whole idea that I'm going to try because I'd rather try than stay here.
That's what Harriet said in that movie.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was a dramatization, but when you were talking about seeing the site in New York, it made me the part of the Underground Railroad. That's what she said in that movie. She was like, you know what? I'm going to have to die. Because they kept trying to stop her from going back to rescue people.
Right.
Not rescue, lead them, I should
Right.
say. And she's like, all right, if I die trying, at least I tried.
Right.
What I love about that movie, and the part that I thought was certainly Oscar worthy, but who am I? Was the whole idea. That's all I am. But the piece where she said in a full room of people who, again, they could check some boxes that were the same. You don't remember slavery because you have been so far removed from it. You don't get it.
When she was inducted as one of the conductors
and she says, you guys are here. It's great. You're talking. You're looking nice, dressing great. You don't really understand what it is.
I can relate to that.
I thought that was deep. I thought
It
that
was
was
deep.
certainly a very good part of the movie.
Yes, it was.
It was. Because, she had to check some people. And I feel like Elwood, who was the kind of, like, okay, guys, we'll be okay.
Right.
All of a sudden
Power
was like,
through
you know what? Power through. He was like, oh, wait, you know what? I'm going.
Yeah.
And how by any means, I'm going to take that chance. And so
didn't he go get his friend too?
His friend came to get him.
His friend came to get him.
Like you said, don't go with anyone.
Right.
That's right.
And he says, well, we're going to go. And that's why he had to honor his friend with his name.
I wonder if Colson was inspired by the idea of like the slave, the Underground Railroad, the slave escape slave.
Where's the emails to him, Daria? This is your this is your bailiwick. That is what you do. Thank you.
This
so
is our
much.
question. Maybe we can ask him to what extent he was inspired by the idea of, slave escaping from bondage.
I think
it has to be, right?
I mean, that's the connection we see.
Yeah.
I feel like this is definitely your strength.
Okay.
Right.
All right. I'll follow up.
I think she should follow up.
I think
I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm very curious. Very curious. And I think for me, just the whole idea that, you know what, if you're trying, then you made some effort, some valiant effort. And I that part, of course, it was certainly a sad ending. But I do really like that he was kind of honored through, his friend towards, in his adulthood.
I think there's some things you're like, I'd rather die, than endure this. I mean, and I don't know why, but I just go back to, I know it's not related, but the Twin Towers and how people jump from the window. They're like, this is too hot. I'm just gonna go now. But it's kind of like that. Like, you don't want to take such abuse, or you get to the point where you're just tired. Like Rosa Parks said that she was tired.
Yeah.
She wasn't getting up. Died.
The violation. I will not. You
Like,
will not be subject.
I will not. I know I will always cut off my nose to spite my face to deal with some nonsense I'm not willing to deal with.
Right.
You know, so I think he was just like, I'm out.
Mhm.
And it was time.
And it was time.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
He might not have known yesterday, but at that moment he left, he knew.
He said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do this today. Yeah, that's deep. That's deep.
And think about how he even ended up in there in the first place.
I know that part bothered me.
I mean, he just caught he hitchhiked with the wrong person.
I know.
I mean, and then you end up on this whole.
But
that's right. The other piece that I think is so like parallel to, like, people are born into a situation where they're already like 20 steps back.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like, but through no fault of their own, it's like just a matter of circumstance and, bad misfortune, whatever, call it whatever you want. But it's like things they didn't have control over.
Right.
And it's just.
He was trying to figure out a way to better himself. He took a risk, and it was the wrong risk.
Yeah.
And he could see that. Nobody could really see that, because at that time, especially, everyone really kind of caught a ride here and there.
Mm-hmm.
What I thought was also just absolutely devastating is that, they, wanted the good jobs painting and having lemonade, and then hanging out with the young, and I forget his name now, but the young kind of warden's nephew who had an easy job watching the good, the good orphans, the good delinquents. And he would be nice to them and then have to be strict with them when they got back to the compound.
Yeah.
And he played with their emotions.
Oh, like how when he took them out for these little just side jobs?
Yeah,
well, that was shady.
It was very shady.
But that reminded me of the current day prison system. Like the fact that it's the prison industrial complex. There are people making money off of the labor that is happening.
Absolutely.
I mean, they were saying that the supplies that they needed, the toothpaste and the vital supplies, they were taking that out and they were selling it out in the streets. And what in the world?
Pocketing money so that they could.
So the corruption.
You guys gotta watch this show, Jeannette.
What is this about?
But it's a program where they take like 6 people that are like you and I, and they sign up to go into the prison system to see the corruption and report back to the sheriff of like what's going on.
Wow.
Yeah, they want to find out what like the inmate, but they're like real normal people.
So they're almost like mystery shoppers, except
yes.
Wow.
And they have a training for you like when you're going to be a prisoner. Like they train them.
This is a reality show.
I just started watching. Yeah, I don't know how long it is, but 60 days in. And there's this one guy who listened to nothing in his training, and you see it all go wrong. Like everything they taught you about how to be a prisoner.
Right. He did nothing.
Nothing. And all the consequences are. But it's I'm so into the show. I'm on like the 3rd episode. It is so good. But it reminds me.
Here it is. I was going to start watching The Ranch. I guess I'm going to skip
I don't even know about The Ranch.
Yeah.
I was going to start watching Cheer because JJ Watt loves Cheer. So I was like, maybe I'll watch that.
Yeah.
Cheer?
Yeah. JJ Watt, the football player, watches Cheer. I'm like, what is up with this show?
I think it's a
cheerleading show.
Yeah, I think it's a reality show about like
about cheerleading, the whole culture and
athletics.
Yeah,
and, that's a real sport and stuff like that. I did hear about that, but I wasn't on my list. But I guess maybe I'll go ahead and.
Oh well, who knows? I mean, do we really have that time?
I don't
really have
because we're like reading. I don't know. We aspire for so much.
Yes,
we want to have so many great conversations. Be able to connect with so many people on so many levels. Yes, with some context too, like some experiences. So I think overall, if we look at this book, the sad, devastating experiences that the young men had, white, black, all were in this really hard environment. I think the whole idea and the concept of a university, digging up and finding the bones and really then looking for the truth. I felt like that was a really nice, like, scholarly way to say, like, this is a learning experience in terms of unpacking our history, unpacking the truth, and making those kind of connections. Because it wasn't just like someone who was like, oh, I'm out looking for silver. It was like, it was a true, team, a research team, who made this find
and wanting to dignify the honor of the people who suffered this injustice and name them,
and
right,
and so they would not be faceless.
Yes.
Nameless.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah. And you know, we've heard about these institutions all over the country, and all the sad, devastating experiences that they've had. And so some of those young men turning into men struggling with addiction, struggling in their lives. We know what the reasons for that. I mean, to have to endure. Some of them were medicating themselves. Some of them ended up overdosing. I mean, there were just so many sad, situations. And it was like, oh, you want to meet up? And, they struggled with whether or not they wanted to meet up and kind of rekindle, like, how do we know each other? Well, we were in this orphanage together. And, we were, celebrating you that you got out of the White House. Okay. And they would, find them in the middle of the night and take them. So I think for me, the whole idea that the university, the students, and the professors were able to really support and acknowledge the people who went through that devastating atrocity. So I think we like to stretch ourselves. I think this book was a stretch.
Yeah.
I would agree. And
I think I can do this like once a year.
Yeah, well, right. We'll figure out the right balance of stretching and then enjoyment. But this one was a must read. It just wasn't the most enjoyable. But there's some really deep lessons taught and mirroring our current situation.
Yes.
Because if we want to get deep, and we won't tonight, because it's about that time.
Because I wonder how many people read it with us.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about my last thought was the connection around like our foster system, and the progress that has been made, but then
I was told the other day, one of my students said you can't stay, or I forget about, but you can't stay with a family more than 2 years, and then they switch them. I'm like, what's behind that? Like, if I'm building a connection with this kid, and and then they have to go to a different home. We tried to like give them suitcases because they put them in trash bags.
Right, we do the same in our academies now. We're giving them the ones that fold, like the grocery bags, the bigger ones so that they don't have to travel. But yeah, for sure.
The thought that I'm left with, the most palpable thought that I have, is that as fast as time passes and as much progress as we feel like we have made, the vestiges of this history are still with us.
Absolutely.
Good and bad. And the key is to figure out how to have the good outweigh the bad and keep moving forward as much as we can.
Thinking about your role in that.
Yes.
And how you make whatever impact you can with what you have. In the work you do, the way you serve, the way you support others. I think that's a really important part for me in this service.
Elisa has one point, and I think it connects to just our little gathering here. She says, one thing I loved about this book is the character friendships. The men in prison are real people, and we sometimes forget that. Innocent men are convicted.
Yes.
Even if they're not innocent,
like
they still have redemptive quality.
Like
right?
the Aaron Hernandez story.
Oh gosh, I can't remember. Her last point was that when Elwood was killed, it hurt. And it did. It did hurt.
It did.
Thank you, Elisa.
Thank you, Elisa. And agree. Absolutely.
The whole thing hurt.
It was.
He said even the guilty ones, like Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah.
So do we want to share our next book?
I'm going.
Our next book is called The Silent Patient. And do we know who it's by?
Yeah, well, I do. I have to find it. We're meeting on February 20th.
February 20th, 9 p.m.
9 p.m. And so
apparently the book is very good.
Good.
Yes.
We heard from our viewer and friend Elisa that she couldn't put it down. It was that good.
I'm excited to start. I'm reading a book called Queenie now. After Queenie, I'm still Silent Patient.
I just finished Beartown and then the follow-up to Beartown. So I haven't started The Silent Patient either. I fell in love with these characters in this book, Beartown. So now I'm like all over that. So I'm done. I finished that yesterday. And then I have another book that was on Oprah's list that I'm going to get through. And then The Silent Patient. So The Silent Patient, the author is Alex Michaelides. Yeah, Alex Michaelides, The Silent Patient. So that's February 20th. We're going to be reading that book. And then if you want to know about March, we are reading The Wives in March.
I did start that.
And then April, The Glass Castle, which everybody has been talking about.
Really?
Yes. So in the comments, I know Daria will always do this. Our next meeting will be
next
February.
We'll put the next three.
Next three out, but February 20th is definitely our next one. So start reading The Silent Patient. Good reviews everywhere about it. Then the following title is The Wives, and then The Glass Castle. So we'll see you on February 20th or a few days before, just to remind you to read. And hopefully you're going to be doing a good job of that this year, 2020.
Yes,
We're
that's
excited.
one of your goals.
One of your goals. I mean, it was on a lot of.
If you're not reading, what are you doing?
I don't know.
Like, I really don't know.
I don't know. I have a lot of time, and I like to hear the friendly
just not sure.
voices of all the narrators that are in my Audible. So, yeah, get reading. Do a little Netflix. I mean, mix it up a little bit. You know, if you want to. I mean, Hulu, whatever you know,
Whatever you do.
whatever you do.
The
But
Disney.
we believe that reading is truly powerful, insightful, and inspiring,
And connecting.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to a great year ahead in 2020. And don't forget, live the book. See you guys.
Bye. Yay. Our first episode
You
of
already said
2020.
bye.
Barry, are we done?